the Go Berserk with Email podcast with Navy nuclear engineer turned email software developer, Troy Broussard. So calm.
I'm pissed off, but I'm telling this because I am teaching you how to think differently and how to test differently.
So patient.
And Ben, that's put $500,000 into this company too, is being told that nobody can find the goddamn bug.
So charitable.
I'm going to start paying bounties every time somebody finds a bug. We're going to deduct $10 for that week.
So trusting.
Do not assume that anything works. Assume that nothing works.
And so sweet, it makes sugar taste just like salt.
I want to play into the sexiness of marketing automation, but I also want to slap the complexity of it.
The Go Berserk with Email podcast begins now.
I feel so special today. This episode is just for me. Ha! What do you got for us today, Troy?
All right, man. You know, I just felt like spreading a little extra love for Jonathan. He was feeling a little needy after the end of the last call, so I decided to create one just for him.
Look at that. Look at that. I'm going to tell you something, man. Before we get going, you are a very, as rough as you may want to appear out there, you are a very loving and caring coach, because every time I
edit
need
that
something,
crap out. Don't be ruining my reputation here. Did you listen to the intro of this podcast? What the hell are you doing, Jonathan?
That's called contrast.
If it wasn't for your big bald head, I would just have to kick you off right now for being that way.
Yeah. Oh man, you're a good guy. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you want people to believe.
So look, man, if you need to get people on the phone to make sales, this is the most effective thing I've ever done. And it goes completely contrary to what most people are willing to do. And, I got to say that the very statement of get people on the phone is contrary to what most people want to do. They don't want to sell. They don't want to get on the phone call. And that's the best way to sell. So if you can't get over that, then just skip this episode and go, mentally masturbate to something else instead. But if you actually want to learn how to sell, you better pick up the phone. And this is the best way that you can do it to generate phone calls. So I'm going to give a shout out to the client that I developed this for. It's from years ago, a former client of mine, and great guy. His name is Dennis Linkletter. His grandfather had the black and white show "Kids Say the Darndest Thing." Art Linkletter.
Art Linkletter. No kidding.
Yeah, that was his grandfather. And Dennis resides in Bali, and with his wife and family there in Bali. And he makes the world's best charcoal barbecue grills. And when I say the world's best, I mean, we're talking Rolls-Royce quality. These things are massive. They come crated in on a truck, hundreds of pounds. They have refractory grade cement that is like 14 inches thick on the insulation, so that even when they're 1,600 degrees inside, hot enough to cook a pizza and on, that you can touch them on the outside and not get burned. Wow. They're all hand tiled in Bali. They're assembled in Bali. He flies all of the steel is medical grade, surgical grade steel that they use on tables and surgeries and stuff. It's the highest grade and quality of steel that they use on the hinges and assemblies. Comes from Germany. He has it so perfectly balanced. Like on one of his bigger models, the lid itself is like 150 pounds, just the lid. And it's so perfectly balanced that a dainty female with her pinky can lift it because it's perfectly hinged, tensioned, and everything. These are the Rolls-Royce of grills. Okay. They're high end. You can pay $12,000-$14,000 for a grill. Wow. And now he has kits where you can do it with gas as well. But when we were doing it with him, he didn't even have gas. It was charcoal only. Right. And he goes so deep on it. He even has his own charcoal that he sells that is made from coconut shell. It's the cleanest burning charcoal on the planet, made from coconut shells in Bali. So it's really cool stuff. Right. So everybody that buys from Dennis, he told me when we were running the funnels, he's like, man, what I need is to get more phone calls, because when I get them on the phone, I close them. Dennis selling his Kamado grills is like me selling low stress options, right? Man, I talk to somebody, it's a done deal. Put it in the bag, we're going. And that's the way he is with the sales. And he's like, I just need more calls. And I said, well, no, you really don't. He's like, yeah, I do. I said, no, you don't. He's like, come on, man, that's what I want. I'm paying you. That's what I want. I said, no, you don't want more calls. You want more qualified calls. He's like, all right, yeah. Now you're mincing words. I said, no, I'm really not. This is everything. You don't want to waste your time talking to everybody. You want to talk to the people. And so he would have it set up where it would like, his Skype would go off and he'd just run to his computer and pick up Skype and answer and go, like live calling. And so what we did is we used marketing automation in a way that nobody does. And this is really the way marketing automation should be used. But nobody does this, because the reason marketing automation was created is because of everybody's fear of sales. And if you look at the way it's sold, all of the marketing automation companies out there, they sell into the fear of you not wanting to sell. Oh, just automate it, right? Income on autopilot with our automation engine. No, bullshit. What it should be doing is using automation to sort, sift, and filter through the right people to talk to have good quality sales calls so that you can close at a higher rate. Instead of using automation to hide from the sales call, use automation to find the best sales calls and amplify the amount of sales calls you make. And so what we did on his site, and this is something you could very easily do on your site, Jonathan. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's not hard to do. What we did is we created on the opt-in form, where after they would put their email to opt in, it would take them to a second form, a two-step opt-in. And the second form would say, got a question for Dennis? Question mark, right? And you have a question for Dennis. And it says, enter your question below and Dennis will call you. And you had to put your phone number and your question. And then there was a notice that said, it was like a warning, like, don't put your phone number unless you want to call. Dennis calls everybody, right? And then what we did is we used automation on that to filter. And we didn't promise that he would call everybody. We used some kind of wording there that make sure, if you provide a phone number, make sure it's a valid phone number if Dennis has a chance to call you, right? So it wasn't promising a phone call, it was promising an answer to the question. All right. So if he didn't respond to a phone call, he would answer the question still. So now the question is, well, what made that determination of whether they got to get his phone number or whether or not he would just email reply? Well, really simple. We used automation. We looked at the length
of the response,
the number of characters of their question. If they responded price,
no good.
No. And you can automate all of this, by the way. You can do text matching, force it to uppercase or lowercase, strip spaces off and get it down to a word list. And when they type in these one-word things, you can just route those automatically, that one word. If they type price or price schedule or catalog or whatever, just write that directly to kick off an automation that sends them an email that sends them that, or a catalog or whatever. So you can handle that, okay? But what we did is we looked at the number of characters they typed in. And you're going to want to assess this for yourself. So in the beginning, you probably don't want, you just want to capture their questions and then kind of analyze after you've got a couple hundred of them. Then you can kind of analyze the patterns and say, okay, anybody over 500 characters, I want to have a call with. What you will find, and this is, again, this is directly from Psychology of Sales, right? You can go back and research this. There's lots of studies on this. The more specific and detailed a person's question is, the more qualified they are to become a buyer. So when somebody asks you a very long, detailed question and you give them the free form capture where they can type in paragraphs of information, that person is much more likely to be a buyer than somebody that just replies price, right? It's an order of magnitude more probable that they're going to become a buyer. And so we would use that as a filter, and only the people that asked really good questions would then go on to the next page that would have his phone number and say, Dennis is available on Skype right now. Click here to have a call with him, right? And everybody else would go on to a different thank you page that would have different responses. If they said price, thank you for your price inquiry. We've gone on and forwarded you off an email that has our price listing and some links to our different models or whatever. And so it had all these different conditionals based on the text. And if they just provided some cheesy short question that didn't meet the qualification and it wasn't focused like price where you knew where to send them, we would just say, thank you for your question. Dennis will get back to you when he in short time or when he can or whatever, right? And so basically that was a, don't call us, we'll call you kind of response, right? But a polite way of doing it. And so those, he would just email them back. But when we did that, I don't want to misrepresent numbers. This was years ago, but it had a significant impact in the number of sales that he was made. Let's just put it that way, especially when he's selling, a product that was anywhere from $4,000 to $12,000. All it's got to do is generate a couple more sales to be highly effective. So, I don't know that he uses it anymore. He's switched email service providers and all the stuff that I set up for him, at this point, close to a decade ago now. I have no idea whether he's doing it anymore, but Kamado, shout out to Dennis, great product. And that funnel was a great funnel that anybody can replicate. They really can. It takes a little bit of work. You might have to have a little custom programming. You might have to hire somebody for a few $100s to write a little script that can apply a tag to send them to the right location or something like that. But well worth the effort, no matter how you do it.
I don't even think we need to just drop the mic. Just go ahead and drop the mic.
I should drop a link to my PayPal is what I should, because that's a multi-$1,000 solution to anybody that's doing high-end sales. That's something incredible. That will add multiple six figures into the right business just by doing this one thing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I never thought of keeping the opt-in, but then using the logic on the back end, especially because we have seen that. We've been running the application funnel forever, and we know the same thing, that when you see 2 or 3 paragraphs, that's when you pay attention to that app. And that's one of the things I do too, Troy, that when I see stuff like that, even in my application funnel and they booked out 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, no, I call them right away. Hey, it's JR from the Podcast Factory. I just saw your answer come across my desk. You got a second? Like I'm talking to you now.
Yeah. Hey, I saw you booked a couple weeks out, but man, I had a cancellation. I got a free moment. You down for a quick call? Yep. Yeah. I do the same thing. So what you would have to likely do to make that work is you'd have to go on Fiverr, pay somebody to do a custom script for you that would calculate the length. It would, it would uppercase the content, look for matched keywords, and then give them a directed output.
Typeform.
It would send them to
does all that. That application already, people know it. It's $70 a month. It does all of that. I just never knew how to use it.
Right. And then you can just route them to a different thank you page based on
depending on their answers.
On the criteria.
It's logic. That's all. I mean, you're talking simple. Logic and automation, but I just never knew how to use it that way. That's incredible, bro. Like I'm sitting, you know how I get. Now I'm going to go implement something. I'm going to go put something over this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad, it's, this is one of the things I'm sure there's somebody else that's done it. I'm not saying I invented it or something, but I didn't get this from anybody. This is an innovation that I created for my clients out of a need years ago. And I can tell you to date, it's been by far the most effective thing. But unfortunately, most people don't do it. Even when I tell them, even when I show them the value of it, they still don't do it because it takes a little work. Yeah. And they just want the hacks, man. It's give me the hack. Give me the hack. No, I don't do hacks. Formula. I do strategy. And most people don't want more phone calls, Jonathan. And that's where you're going to close the sales, man. That's where you get the sale. It's not about more. It's about better. This gets you the best phone calls possible.
I love calls, man. So this was amazing. And I think you guys need to listen to this 3 or 4 more times, but there is a ton of gold. I have 2 pages of notes on this one. What do you have coming up for us next time?
All right. So, the next one, nobody's going to like, but we're going to talk about email scrubbing for fun and profit. And we're going to talk about why scrubbing your list is both the most boring and most profitable thing you can be doing.
The most boring and the most profitable. I like that contrast, man. So another Go Berserk with Email show is in the can. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back in your earbuds next time.
To get a free Berserker Mail test drive with no credit card required, go to startmytestdrive.com. From there, you can play around inside the platform without pressure. Load up emails and campaigns to see how simple the interface is, and get comfy with everything before deciding to join. That's startmytestdrive.com.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.